Greyson Vance had no idea his life was about to change forever when he stepped out of his beat-up truck, shovel in hand, and saw her standing at the end of her driveway in a long black coat, eyes narrowed behind oversized sunglasses, waiting for someone to clear her way. He tightened his grip on the shovel, his breath fogging in the icy morning air. "You stuck," he called out. The woman looked up. Her cheeks were flushed with the cold, but her chin was lifted like she owned the world. She probably did. "It's piled up overnight," she said, voice clipped. "Can't even back out." Greyson glanced at the mountain of snow blocking the sleek black SUV behind her. "Yeah, the plows missed this street again. I can take care of it." She hesitated. "How much?" He blinked. "I didn't ask for payment." "I don't expect anyone to work for free." He gave a shrug. "I'm not anyone, and you shouldn't be stuck all day." She didn't answer right away, just crossed her arms and tilted her head. "What's your name?" Greyson Vance." "Ariana Rhodes." She said it like it meant something, like he should know. But all Greyson saw was a woman standing alone in the cold with expensive taste and not a clue how to dig her own car out of a snowbank. He nodded once, then turned and started shoveling. It took him 20 minutes. His back ached, his hands were raw, and his boots were soaked. But when he leaned on the shovel and looked back, her SUV had a clear path to the street. "You're good to go," he said. Ariana stepped closer, her boots crunching on the ice. "You didn't have to do that." He wiped his brow with his sleeve. "I know." Her gaze flicked down to the worn patches on his coat, the duct tape on his glove. "You have a kid, don't you?" Greyson stiffened. "Yeah, my daughter, she's 5. "Where is she now?" "Inside, my mom's watching her. Wouldn't leave her alone." Something about his answer made her pause. Then, without another word, she pulled off one of her gloves and reached into her coat pocket, pulling out a crisp bill. "Take this." He shook his head. "I don't want your money." "It's not a gift, it's thanks." "I wasn't doing it for thanks either." Her lips parted, like she wanted to argue, but then she just stared at him again, like she couldn't quite figure him out. "I've never seen you around here," she said. "I'm not from around here. I'm doing handyman work out in the suburbs, east side. Got a call from someone on this street who needed drywall fixed. Saw the snow on the way out." "And you just stopped." "Yeah." She blinked like it made no sense. "No one does that." "Well," Greyson said, picking up his shovel, "maybe more people should." He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. "Wait, are you free tomorrow evening?" He paused. "Why?" "There's a dinner, at the plaza. I need someone to pretend to be my date." He turned slowly. "You want me to be your fake boyfriend?" Her expression didn't change. "You're decent, you're real. I could use that right now." "Why me?" "Because you're the first person in a long time who didn't ask me for something." Greyson stared at her. This woman was polished, cold, and out of place in this quiet, snow-covered neighborhood, but there was something else behind her eyes, something tired. Lonely. He didn't know what made him say it. Maybe he missed being seen. Maybe he missed feeling like a man who could be more than just a struggling dad with too many bills and not enough time. "All right," he said, "I'll be your fake date." Her lips curved into something that almost looked like a smile. "Pick me up at 7, wear something black." He nodded, heart still beating too fast, and walked back to his truck. Back home, his daughter Vivie ran to the door in her pajamas. "Daddy, did you shovel the snow?" "I did, bugs," he said, scooping her up, "and I might have gotten us dinner." She giggled and threw her arms around his neck. "Yay, can we get fries?" He smiled. "We'll see." The next evening, Greyson stood outside the Plaza Hotel, staring up at the towering windows and feeling completely out of place in his borrowed blazer and polished boots. A valet opened the door for him, and he stepped inside, the warmth hitting like a wall. And then he saw her. Ariana Rhodes. In a midnight blue gown that shimmered like water and hugged her curves. Her hair was pinned up, her eyes smoky and sharp. "You clean up," she said, stepping toward him. "You make it impossible to look anywhere else," he replied before he could stop himself. Her smile flickered in surprise, then she took his arm. Inside, the ballroom was gold and chandeliers. Waiters glided with trays. People turned to look at them, whispers already starting. "Who are they?" someone murmured. "No idea, but she never brings anyone." Ariana leaned in. "Don't talk unless it cue you, just smile, be charming." "Got it." But as the night went on, Greyson started to see cracks in her armor. The way she stiffened when a man in a tux tried to corner her. How her hand trembled when someone asked about her father's legacy. How her smile faded the second people turned away. "You okay?" he asked quietly, offering her a glass of champagne. "I'm fine." "You're not." She looked at him, eyes dark. "You don't know what it's like to walk into a room and wonder who really cares." He held her gaze. "Maybe I don't, but I know you look tired of pretending." Something in her face crumbled. That night, after they left the party, she didn't let go of his arm. Not even in the elevator. When they reached the top floor, she waved a keycard. The door opened to a luxury penthouse that looked like something out of a movie. Glass walls, marble floors, a fireplace already glowing. "This is yours?" he asked. She nodded, "One of them." He turned to her. "You're a billionaire." "Yes." "And you asked a broke handyman to fake date you because?" "Because don't trust anyone who wants to be close to me." He stared at her. "And you trust me." "I'm trying to." She stepped closer, his heart pounded. "I don't do this," she said. "I don't bring men home. I don't let anyone in." Greyson reached out and took her hand. "Then let's not pretend anymore." She looked up at him, eyes wide, vulnerable, and then she kissed him. And everything changed. Greyson didn't sleep that night. After the kiss, Ariana had pulled away, silent. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't explained. She had just walked to the window, arms folded, her back to him, and said quietly, "You should go." And he had. He didn't press, didn't ask what it meant. He just stepped out of her penthouse suite and rode the elevator down, the silence pressing against his chest like a weight. Now, back in his small rented house, he stood at the kitchen counter, watching his daughter color at the table, her feet swinging above the floor. "Vivie," he said, voice low, "you know how we talked about sometimes people have different lives than us?" She looked up with wide eyes, like princesses. He smiled faintly. "Sort of someone I met. She lives in a world that's very different than ours. She's important." "Is she nice?" "I think she wants to be." Vivie nodded solemnly, like she understood more than he expected, then leaned over her drawing and added stars to the sun. That afternoon, Greyson's phone buzzed. "Unknown number." He answered, "Yes." Ariana's voice came through, calm and composed. "I need to see you, now." He glanced at the clock. "Can't just leave. My mom's not back till 6. "I'll send someone to watch your daughter." "You're not sending strangers into my home." She paused, "Then bring her." He hesitated. "You sure?" "I wouldn't ask if I wasn't." An hour later, he pulled up outside a sleek glass building downtown with Vivie in the backseat, clutching her stuffed penguin. A man in a vest opened the door for them, ushering them through a quiet lobby and into a private elevator. Greyson carried his daughter on his hip, her tiny hand balled in his shirt as the elevator ascended in smooth silence. When the doors opened, Ariana was already waiting. She wore a slate gray blouse tucked into fitted trousers, her heels soundless against the polished floor as she stepped forward. "Hi," Vivie said shyly. Ariana crouched to her level. "Hello, I'm Ariana." Vivie tilted her head. "That's a pretty name." Ariana's lips curved. "Thank you." Greyson set her down. "You said it was urgent." "I did," she looked at him. "Come with me." They followed her through a corridor lined with abstract paintings and into a spacious office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The room was quiet, the only sound the distant hum of traffic below. Ariana motioned to the sofa. "She can stay here. Have someone bringing snacks and puzzles. She'll be safe." Vivie looked up at Greyson. "Can I stay, Daddy?" He looked at Ariana, then back to his daughter. "I'll be right next door." She nodded and plopped down on the couch, already pulling her penguin into her lap. Ariana led him through a side door into a smaller room. This one was stark, no windows, no furniture except for a long table and 2 chairs. She closed the door behind them. "I didn't bring you here for business," she said. "I figured." She leaned against the table, arms crossed. "I need to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly." He waited. "Why did you really say yes to all this? The dinner, the kiss, coming here today?" He met her gaze. "Because you asked, and because I see something in you that you're trying to hide." She stepped forward. "You don't know me." "No," he said, "but I know what it's like to feel surrounded without ever really being seen." She went quiet. Then, finally, she said, "My father died 3 months ago. No one outside this building knows yet. I've been running the company in his name while the board tries to replace me behind my back." Greyson exhaled slowly. "You're pretending he's still alive." "Not literally," she said, "but I've been managing everything the way he would have, keeping up appearances, keeping control." He took a step closer. "And you think bringing me into your world will help you do that?" "No," her voice softened. I need someone who's not playing a role, someone who doesn't want anything from me, someone real." Greyson looked at her, the sharp lines of her face softening for the first time. "I told you I'd be your fake date," he said, "but I'm not going to be anyone's illusion." "I don't want you to be." He studied her for a long moment. "Then what do you want?" Ariana took a breath. "I want you to stay." "In your life." "In this moment, just stay." He nodded once. "All right." She reached for his hand, her fingers brushing his like a question. And he answered it by folding his hand around hers. Later, when they walked back into the office, Vivie was asleep on the couch, a half-eaten cookie in her hand. Ariana knelt beside her, tucking the stuffed penguin closer. "She's beautiful." "She's everything." Ariana looked up at him. "You're a good father." "Try to be a better one than mine was." She didn't pry, just stood and led him to the window. Outside, the city glimmered like 1,000 stars, trapped in glass. "Why me?" he asked quietly. She didn't look away from the skyline. "Because you're the only person who's looked at me like I'm human, not a bank account, not a headline, just me." Greyson turned to her, "Then stop hiding behind all this." Her jaw tightened. "I can't." "Yes, you can. You just don't want to risk being seen." Ariana's eyes flicked to his. "You don't know what I've risked already." "Then show me." She stepped back. "What if you don't like what you see?" "Then, guess, I'll have to remind you that you're more than what you're afraid of." The silence between them stretched, not empty but full of something unspoken. "I have a charity dinner next week," she said at last. It's important. My father's name is still on the guest list. I need someone at my side who can handle questions, pressure, spot a lie. You sure you want a construction worker playing bodyguard? I'm not asking you to protect me, she said. I'm asking you to stand beside me. Greyson looked from her to his daughter, still sleeping peacefully. Okay, he said, but I won't play pretend forever. I'm counting on that. The ballroom at the Langston Foundation Gala gleamed with crystal chandeliers and mirrored columns, a glittering cage of wealth and whispers. Greyson stood beside Ariana, his tuxedo tailored that morning by someone who hadn't even blinked when he'd said he didn't own one. He hadn't asked who paid for it, he already knew. Ariana's dress was silver. Not flashy, not loud, just quiet power stitched into silk. Her hand rested lightly on his arm, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. But Greyson had learned how to read past the stillness. He could feel the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers pressed just a little too hard. He leaned toward her. You look like you're walking into battle. She didn't glance at him. That's exactly what this is. A man in a navy suit approached, his smile too rehearsed, his eyes already scanning Greyson like he was a misplaced item in a museum. Ariana, he said, offering a kiss to the air beside her cheek. Didn't expect to see you tonight, not after everything. Greyson felt her fingers stiffen. I'm not in the habit of disappearing when things get complicated, she replied. The man's gaze moved to Greyson, and this must be the new acquisition. Greyson stepped forward before Ariana could answer. Greyson Vance, fix things. There was a pause. Then the man laughed like he didn't understand the joke, but refused to be left out. Of course. Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other. The board's been talking. With that, he walked away, his cologne lingering longer than he did. Greyson turned to Ariana. He's on the board. He wants to be chairman. And he thinks you're in the way. He knows I am. She moved them toward the edge of the room, where the music was quieter and the crowd thinner. A waiter passed with 2 flutes of champagne. Greyson took one and handed it to her. She declined. I don't drink at events like this, she said. Because you want to stay sharp. Because can't afford to forget who's watching. He sipped his. You ever want to walk away from all of it? Her eyes didn't leave the room. Every day, but if I did, someone else would take my father's work and twist it into something he'd hate. A woman in a red gown approached, all teeth and diamonds. Ariana, darling, you're glowing, and who's this rugged piece of mystery? Greyson offered a nod. Her date. Oh, I'd guessed that, the woman purred. But what does he do when he's not polishing cufflinks? He builds houses, Ariana said. Charming, the woman replied. Well, enjoy yourselves, and Ariana, do try not to let the wolves circle too closely tonight. When she was gone, Greyson let out a breath. Is everyone here this exhausting? They're worse when they're smiling. They moved to a corner where the lights dimmed just enough to make the space feel removed from the rest of the world. A jazz trio played in the far end of the room, the notes soft and low. Greyson watched Ariana for a long moment. What would you be doing right now if you weren't here? She looked at him. I don't know. Yes, you do. Her lips parted, then slowly closed again. She glanced down. There's a greenhouse at my lake house, she said finally. I used to go there when I needed to breathe. Sit on the floor for hours, just listening to the wind hit the glass. Greyson tilted his head. Why don't you go anymore? Because I haven't earned that peace yet. He stepped closer. You don't need to earn peace, you just have to stop running from it. She looked up at him, and something cracked in her expression. You know what scares me more than losing everything? She asked quietly. Letting someone close enough to see how much I've already lost. Greyson didn't touch her, he didn't need to. Then let me earn that. A flashbulb went off from across the room. Ariana flinched. They're going to ask questions about you tomorrow, she said. Where you came from, why I brought you, what you mean to me. Then give them answers. She studied him. Are you ready for that? I've been ready since the moment I watched you pretend you didn't need anyone. Before she could respond, a man in a headset appeared at Ariana's side. They're ready for your speech, Ms. Rhodes. Her face changed in an instant. The softness vanished, replaced by the same polished calm she wore like armor. She looked at Greyson. Stay here. He held her eyes. Go show them who they're afraid of. She stepped onto the small stage at the center of the ballroom, the spotlight catching the glint of silver at her shoulders. The room went quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice even clear. This foundation was my father's legacy, but tonight it becomes mine. Greyson watched, something tightening in his chest as she spoke not about profit margins or industry growth, but about community, about rebuilding, about giving second chances to people who were often overlooked. She didn't mention her father's death. She didn't need to. It was in her voice, in the way she held herself between every word. When she finished, the applause was immediate, but she didn't look toward the crowd. She looked at Greyson. And then she stepped down, walked straight to him, and reached for his hand. They left before dessert. In the back of the black car waiting outside, Ariana leaned her head against the window. I wasn't sure I could do that speech, she said. You didn't just do it, Greyson replied. You made them listen. She turned toward him. You're not just a man who fixes things. And you're not just a woman with too much money, he said. She smiled faintly. You know, there's a part of me that wants to disappear for a while. Just pack a bag and go somewhere no one knows my name. You don't have to disappear, Greyson said. You just have to stop pretending you're alone in this. She went quiet. Then, come with me to the lake house. Greyson looked at her. Now. Tomorrow, just you, me, and Vivie. No board meetings. No cameras, no pretending. He nodded. All right. She reached over, took his hand, and didn't let go the rest of the ride home. The lake house stood at the edge of a wide, frozen shoreline. Snow clung to the treetops, untouched and soft, and the sky above stretched pale and endless. Greyson stepped out of the SUV, lifting Vivie from her booster seat as her boots crunched into the snow. Ariana had driven them herself, insisting on it. No drivers, no assistants, just the three of them and the open road. She stood by the front door now, unlocking it with one gloved hand, her hair pulled back beneath a knit cap. Gone were the heels, the tailored coats, the guarded glances. Here, she was quiet, present. Vivie tugged at Greyson's sleeve. Is this where the plants live? He nodded. She said there's a greenhouse. Want to see it later? Yes, she spun in a slow circle, arms out. It smells like snow. Greyson looked up at the house, stone and wood, built long before Ariana's wealth had come into the picture. It had character, age, a kind of peace that didn't exist in her penthouse or the boardroom halls. Inside, the house was warm and quiet. A fire had already been lit, probably by the groundskeeper Ariana had called ahead. She led them through a wide living room where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the lake like a painting. Vivie ran to the couch, pulling her penguin from her backpack and curling up with it like she belonged there. Greyson turned to Ariana. I didn't expect it to be this simple. She pulled off her gloves. My father built it before the money came. It's the only place that stayed untouched. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Why bring me here? Because I'm tired of letting other people dictate what matters. She looked toward the window. And because I needed to know if you'd still want me when there's nowhere to hide. He reached for her hand, fingers brushing hers. "I didn't fall for the penthouse." She glanced at him. "You fell." He held her gaze, hard. She didn't look away, didn't pretend not to understand. Instead, she leaned into his touch, just enough to make the air between them shift. They didn't kiss. Not yet. Later, after Vivie was asleep under a patchwork quilt, Greyson found Ariana outside the greenhouse. The glass panes were fogged from the warmth inside, glowing faintly against the snow. He opened the door, and a wave of humidity and green scent wrapped around him. She stood barefoot in the dirt, her shoes left at the door, turning a small terracotta pot in her hands. "Didn't expect you to be gardening this late," he said. "It's not gardening," she replied. "It's remembering." She set the pot down, brushing soil from her fingers. "I used to come here with him. He'd tell me that everything worth growing takes patience, even when it looks like nothing's happening." Greyson stepped beside her. "You think he'd want you holding onto everything the way you have?" "I think he'd hate what it turned me into." He placed a hand on her back, gentle. "You didn't turn into anything. You survived what people expected of you. That's not the same as becoming it." She looked up at him, eyes full but no tears. "You're the first one who ever saw me outside all of it. Then let me be the last one who has to." She stared at him, the quiet stretching between them like a thread pulled tight. Ariana took a breath. "I want to give up the company." Greyson blinked. "What?" "I've been thinking about it for weeks, even before you. I can't keep pretending I care more about numbers than people. I want to start something else, something that actually does what we claim to." He didn't answer right away. "That's a big move." "I'm not asking for permission." "Good," he said, "because I tell you to do it." She smiled. Not the careful, composed smile she wore in public. This one was soft, real, her eyes crinkled at the corners. "I want you in this life," she said. "I'm already here." "No," she said, stepping closer. "I mean all of it, not just the lake house, the quiet moments. I want you beside me when I make something new. I want Vivie to grow up knowing she can build her own world if she wants to." Greyson swallowed hard. "You're not scared?" "I am, but I'm more scared of going back to the way things were." He nodded once. "Then let's start something." She tilted her head. "What do we call it?" "You mean the life we're building?" She nodded. He looked around the greenhouse, the potted herbs, the unfurling leaves, the soft scent of something newly alive. "We call it ours." They kissed then. Not rushed, not desperate, just two people choosing each other in the stillness of everything they'd survived. Weeks passed. Ariana stepped down from the company in a closed-door meeting that sent boardrooms across the city into chaos. She didn't flinch. She handed over power. She walked away. And then she walked into a new building on the edge of the city, where a nonprofit bearing her father's name and her vision would begin from the ground up. Greyson helped design the space. Vivie drew the first mural on the wall with finger paint and a serious expression. They didn't move into her penthouse. They built a new home near the lake house, a wide, planked, sunlit place with space for Vivie's garden and Ariana's books, and the life Greyson had only let himself imagine. One afternoon, while Vivie played outside in the snow and Greyson hammered the last nail into a porch swing, Ariana stepped out holding 2 mugs of coffee. She handed him one. "You know what I realized?" "What's that?" "I didn't give you my heart." He turned to her. "No." "No," she said, "you earned it." He took a sip, then looked out at the stretch of white glittering under the late sun. "I think we're going to be okay." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "We already are." The spring thaw came slowly to the lake, melting the ice in jagged sheets and revealing the dark, glassy water beneath. Greyson stood at the edge of the dock, his hands wrapped around a mug of tea Ariana had brewed from the herbs she'd started growing in the greenhouse. Behind him, the house they'd built together stood quiet, warm yellow light spilling from the kitchen windows where Vivie sat drawing at the table, her tongue poked out in concentration. He heard the back door creak open and didn't have to turn to know it was her. "You're up early," Ariana said, stepping beside him in a thick cardigan and bare feet, her breath visible in the chilled morning air. "I like listening to the lake wake up." She folded her arms and leaned into his side. "You always did like the quiet before everything starts." He glanced sideways. "You say that like we've been doing this for years." Ariana smiled into her shoulder. "Feels like we have." They stood there, not speaking, just watching the lake shimmer as birds began to call from the trees. Then Ariana spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "Greyson, there's something I want to show you." He followed her back inside, where she led him past the kitchen and down the short hallway to the office they'd set up together. But instead of stopping at the desk, she opened the drawer of the old sideboard where she kept her notebooks. She pulled one out and handed it to him. He opened it to the first page. Inside was a sketched plan hand-drawn buildings, gardens, wide open spaces. He looked up. "What's this?" "My next step," she said. "I've been designing a center, a real one, not just a name on a building. A place for single parents to get support, housing, job training. Everything we both know is missing." His brow lifted. "And you're building it?" "With you," she said, "if you want to." He stared at the page for a long moment. "This is big, Ariana. It's not a project, it's a legacy." "I know," she said. "I want it to be ours." He set the notebook down and took her face in his hands. "You already gave me more than I ever thought I'd have, but if we're doing this, then let's make it something even Vivie can be proud of." "She already is," Ariana whispered. Later that evening, they packed a picnic and took it down to the lake. Vivie insisted on carrying the basket, even though it was almost too heavy for her. They sat on a blanket under a tree, the breeze tugging at Ariana's curls, while Vivie told them stories about the magic animals she saw in the clouds. As the sun lowered, Ariana pulled out a small box from her coat pocket and handed it to Greyson. He opened it slowly. Inside was a brass key. He looked at her in confusion. "To the foundation building," she said, "the one we're starting construction on next month," had it engraved. He turned it over. The initials GV were etched into the handle. "It's yours just as much as it's mine." He swallowed hard. "You don't have to keep proving anything to me." "I'm not," she said. "I just like giving you things that last." Vivie crawled into his lap then, curling against his chest as the air cooled. Ariana reached for his hand, lacing their fingers together. "Do you ever think about getting married again?" she asked, her voice casual but not careless. He didn't answer right away. "I do." She looked at him. "To me." He nodded. "Only to you." Silence, then soft and certain. A few weeks later, on a gentle morning with petals blooming along the edge of the lake and Vivie tossing flower confetti in all directions, they stood under an arched tide with white ribbons and lavender sprigs. No photographers, no press, just them and the people who mattered. Greyson wore a navy suit that Ariana had chosen. She wore a cream dress that floated like wind and lace. Vivie stood between them, holding their hands with a grin too wide for her face. "I already have the family, always wanted," Ariana said, voice steady, "but today get to promise never to let it go." Greyson looked into her eyes. "You gave me more than a second chance. You gave me a world didn't know it deserved." They kissed under the open sky, with the lake stretching behind them and their future ahead. That summer, the new foundation broke ground. Greyson oversaw the construction team personally, While Ariana balanced architectural meetings with community outreach, her sleeves often rolled up, paint under her fingernails. They didn't go back to the city. They didn't need to. Every morning started with Vivie running barefoot through the grass and ended with dinner on the porch, laughter echoing through the trees. One evening, as the first leaves began to turn gold, Ariana sat on the porch swing with Greyson, her head on his shoulder. "She asked me today if we were rich," she murmured. He looked down at her. "What you say?" "I told her we are, not the kind of rich I used to be. Better, the kind that lasts." He kissed the top of her head. "She's not wrong." Viv's laughter rang out from inside. And just like that, they knew they had everything they needed. Everything they'd built together was home.